Welcome to Arts Roll Call, a podcast showcasing artists and arts organizations, highlighting the role of the arts today in Greater Lansing. I'm Robin Miner Swartz. I'm an editor, communications consultant, and a lifelong arts advocate. And today I'm talking with Steph and Daniel Hogan. Steph Joy Hogan is an award-winning mixed media painter and a Lansing native. Although she studied art at Michigan State and the University of Iowa, she considers herself primarily a self-taught mixed media artist. Steph is inspired by children's imaginations, and she works primarily with acrylics, ink, and scraps of found paper to create layered skyscapes, imaginative universes, and the whimsical creatures who inhabit them. She was voted top artist in the Lansing City Pulse's Top of the Town contest in 2021, and her work has been showcased in galleries and exhibitions across mid-Michigan. You may have seen some of her pieces on Arts Council billboards and CATA buses, or permanently installed at Impression 5 Science Center and Fenner Nature Center. Daniel J. Hogan is a Lansing cartoonist who works with inks and watercolors and makes digital art. His focus is creating whimsical, humorous illustrations designed to get a smile or a chuckle out of the viewer. Daniel studied film and animation at Grand Valley State University, where one of his animated shorts, Lunch Date, won an award and was featured in several festivals. Dan has exhibited his work at the East Lansing Art Festival and the Nelson Gallery. He also had an installation on Lansing Art Gallery's Art Path and was awarded an Arts Council Art in the Sky billboard in 2019. In 2022, he received an Arts Council Grit grant to create limited edition reproductions of his original art. Welcome to Arts Roll Call, Steph and Dan. That was probably the longest introduction I've been able to do for our guests, but I'm glad to be able to share all of your bios, and we're happy to have you here today.
And that was just a short version.
Right. Well, let's start by talking about how you met. Were you both making art then?
No. I met Stephanie, where all young men go searching for a future wife, MSU tailgate, and many, many years ago. And no, I think the only thing art-wise I was doing at the time was creative writing and a little photography, but that was about it.
Yeah, I think that the first thing art-wise that we really bonded over it all was photography was a hobby of both of ours at the time, which neither of us really do to any great extent today, but it was sort of a connection point initially for us.
And that was kind of a nice social thing. I think I'm remembering back to that era, and there were a lot of photo meetups and photo walks with a lot of the Love Lansing crew. Is that same era?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about what your day-to-day is like as artists and studio owners and partners. What is it like to share all of those aspects of your life?
I think it's a lot like any other couple. Our day-to-day involves a lot of cats and meal planning and work and things like that. But it's nice because we also understand what the other one is doing when it comes to, we both have jobs outside of our art. So our art takes up a lot of our free time, and it's nice to have somebody who understands, we can share the studio space. So even though it's taking up time away from like our family activities, it's still in the family. So it's, I would say,
keep it in the family.
Yeah, we are both, creatives with big personalities, and sometimes our creativity clashes and sometimes it complements each other. But that's.
I'll add the upside to having an artist living with me, and she would say the same thing, is if we're uncertain about, does this color palette work? Does this composition work? Whatever, we can bounce it off each other. And us both being artists, we would probably have better feedback than a partner who's not an artist. Although sometimes it is good to get the opinion of someone who's not an artist too.
Yeah, but you've essentially got a built-in colleague who speaks your language, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
that's
definitely
valuable.
Yeah, and even as both as artists and essentially small business owners, because we sell our artwork, we do we work in that capacity as well, and it can be really isolating or hard. Not all of your friends understand the creative process or making art or bookkeeping for a small business or other hiccups that may come along the way. So it's awesome to have not only just a close accountability partner, things like that, but actually somebody in your home that at any given moment you can bounce ideas off of.
Yes, it does come in handy.
That's valuable. Another thing you have in common is your relationship with the Arts Council. Can you talk a little bit about how you got involved with them?
We were trying to think about this the other night because it's been so long, but we think it was we were asked to appear at an event for Arts Night Out years and years ago, and then after that, we joined the Arts Council, and we've been members. I want to say since like 2018 because I had a show.
2017 probably.
Okay, because because I know I had a show at their office in 2019, and we had already been members by that point. So and when I get asked by up and coming artists around town what advice I have, and one of the first things I tell them to do is to check out the Arts Council and become a member because it's definitely benefited both of us in the past few years.
Yeah, I mean, you've both had billboards, you've received grants, you've presented workshops and exhibited your work through the Arts Council. How have those opportunities affected your progression as artists?
I think for me, I mean, it was everything getting started. My first opportunity to sell my artwork ever was at an Arts Night Out. My first time showing my artwork in a gallery even was a little solo show in the Arts Council on their gallery wall. And then opportunities, like the billboards and things, it's a great way to sort of get your name out. People recognize my art because they've seen it on billboards, they've seen it on buses, they've seen it at different events that I've done. So all of those things really helped. And then like professional development wise, things like being able to be a presenter on some of their for some of their smarts workshops, or I got to be part of the grant process as a juror for some of the grants that they help distribute. So from a behind the scenes aspect, that was really valuable for me to have a sense of when we apply for grants, what is the conversation in the room when they're deciding who gets a grant, so all of those opportunities, all angles of art and the art business and the art world has really been impacted by the Arts Council.
Yeah, and same for me. Like my first ever gallery show was at the Arts Council office back in 2019. And that was my first time, getting stuff prepared for a solo show. I'd never done that before. And then, another first through them was when I applied for the GRIT grant. I had actually never really applied for a grant before. So that was a whole new process for me. And thankfully they were very helpful, and because I wasn't sure about some of it, but they were super helpful and gave me tips, and it worked out.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're good at the parts of things that you're good at. You're good at the art part of it, but you didn't really stop to consider what is it like to run a business in adjacency to that.
Yeah, they've had a lot of great resources. And so just really from day one of calling myself an artist, they were there by my side the whole way. And I've come so far just in the last several years, but I mean, they're for sure at the wind in your sails as an emerging artist in town. And even, as we continue to grow, their resources are unbeatable.
Yeah. Well, I'd love for you to each talk a little bit about your own beginnings as artists and the growth that you've experienced over the years. Who'd like to start?
For me, my art kind of goes back to I studied film and animation in college, so I sort of had an art college experience. And then after college, I experimented briefly with, doing web comics and kind of gave up on that pretty quick. But then I got into creative writing and did that for a while, self-published a book, and then that led to freelance writing around town and stuff. And then years went by where I really didn't do anything aside from the photography we talked about. But then I just got into cartooning and making comics again when I was 30, and just stuck with it since then. So that would have been 2011, 2012, and I've just been making stuff ever since. It's kind of stuff has changed. I'm doing more, bigger pieces, obviously, and whatnot, but I'm still making something.
Yeah, for me, I was one of those creative kids that grew up in a creative household. Some of my earliest memories are drawing Christmas cards. Every year our family we would print our own Christmas cards and send them out, and we would have contests between me and my sisters. We would each get to submit artwork, like when we're like 3, 5 years old, submit artwork to our parents to choose for who was going to be the Christmas card this year. So, like I've always been, creative in that way. And I did study art in college, but I got away from it. I ended up changing my major. I took the scenic route through college. So I had many majors. Art was one of them along the way. Got out of college and just kind of went about life doing other things and, had creative hobbies. But it wasn't until, I toyed around with the photography for a bit. And then I watched Dan do these great illustrations and drawings and sell his artwork at Comic-Cons. And I'm a sales person in my day job, like retail is what I do. So like the whole thing seemed just really like, I want to do that. Now's the time. So about the time I turned 40, I declared myself an artist and just started doing it.
And it's all because I bought her a fancy easel for Christmas one year.
I mean, a fancy easel for Christmas one year. I had taken a painting workshop that I really liked. It was like the first time I really did mixed media at all. I took a couple mixed media workshops and really got into it. And he bought me a fancy easel, and it was all downhill from there.
Yep.
Well, does competition play at all into your work and your relationship as artists?
We thought that was an interesting question, because at least for me, like I don't ever think of us as being I feel like our work is different, but it doesn't compete. Our work is very complementary. A lot of our collectors are like the same people. So, and a lot of the opportunities, I mean, you can see it from our histories, we take part in a lot of the same opportunities. Someone may do it first, but then the other one usually does too. So I don't typically see us as competition so much as far as art. And even just that's kind of my philosophy with art in general. I had a lot of very generous local artists that just shared everything they knew when I was first starting out and made it so easy for me. So I'm a big fan of like collaboration over competition, and building a community. So we're very much a part of the local community, and we don't compete with them. We don't compete with each other.
Yeah. Like I don't try to be like any kind of a gatekeeper for up and coming artists either. Like I will happily share advice and info. I mean, I know there are people in creative circles who will purposely try to not give advice to other people out of fear of competition and losing work, but that's not something I do.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I mean, I think at some point you realize we all do things that are adjacent to one another, and it's just better if we can do them together.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things to do is if I get approached for like a freelance art thing or something or opportunity, and I can't do it, I have a list of friends I will reach out to. It's like, hey, do you want to do this? And they're always super thankful for the opportunity. So I love, throwing work to my friends when I can.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the nice things about Lansing in general is that we're a community of such a size that we are able to have those connections and help each other and it step in when there's something that they need to fill a gap and someone. Well, do you do anything special artistically for the holidays?
Well,
do you make your own Christmas cards still?
I was going to say, as the Hogan family, we did start out making our own Christmas cards, but that tradition did fall to the wayside a little bit, I think, as we got busier.
I think if there was ever times where we had competition or conflicts over something, it was making Christmas cards. So we've opted instead in recent years to just buy bulk Christmas cards from Sarah Pulver
at Deer Alley. Support your local businesses. Go buy Christmas cards.
Because it stops a lot of headaches, and it's like it's over and done with. So.
Well, that kind of leads into my next question, which is a good opportunity to talk about supporting local business and artists. Why is that important for the artists and for the community in general? It's important, as I tell people, and I've talked about this online a few times too, like when someone buys my art, like I'm one person, so the money I get from someone buying a piece, that money goes right back into the local Lansing community. Like I purposely try to buy as much as my art supplies locally, specifically at Odd Not Art Supply in Old Town, as I can. And if I had to like crunch the numbers, I've probably spent upwards of thousands of dollars there over the past few years. Like this past year when I had my show at the Nelson Gallery, I bought
all the paint I used there, like some of the paints was just like $100-something alone just for that. And so that money goes, right back into the local community. We also get prints made at Capital C Reprographics in Old Town. I bought the van I used for our art stuff locally here in Lansing. I got the loan for that at the MSU Credit Union. So like it's all super connected. I'm not some big box online place that does not give anything back to the local community.
Yeah.
And I think in addition to obviously there's economic impacts, but there's just culturally too. I think that like the arts, the Arts Council is great at putting art to the forefront of the community, but I think that it's how we tell our stories. It's how we connect as a community. All the beautiful murals we have around town, all the beautiful public artworks, just beautifying your own home with local artwork. It's storytelling and placemaking, and it creates so much connection. And so, by supporting local artists, whether directly through the artists or whether through galleries or other, shops that they're in, we're just allowing for more art to happen. And that is so important.
Yeah. And along those lines, when you have stuff in the gallery, in my own experience, I've had people say like, well, should I just wait till you're done with your gallery show and buy it through you? I'm like, no. Yes, a gallery will take a percentage of a sale, but if I sell things at that gallery, that means that gallery will want to have more things from me in the future. And that also means that gallery will be around in the future to not only sell my work, but the work of other artists as well. So, yes, while there is some cost to selling stuff at an art gallery, there's also cost for me selling stuff at art festivals or even on Etsy. Like there's always some sort of cost to stuff. So, by all means, buy our stuff from galleries and shops if you have the opportunity.
That's really great perspective. I think that plays into the whole business of art that we were talking about earlier too. Yeah. Well, what are you both working on right now?
Well, I have so I'm thinking ahead to when this will air, but I actually have my first solo show since my first solo show with the Arts Council is coming up in the spring, and it hasn't really been announced yet, so I won't say more yet. But that's what I'm working on right now in the studio is finishing up commissions for the holidays and getting ready for art show, solo show in the spring, and also, just at this point, I've just wrapped up a bunch of artwork that is getting sent to galleries for the holidays. So if you're hearing this and want to see my art in person or, do some Christmas shopping, I'll have pieces at the Lansing Art Gallery. They are absolutely in need of your help right now as they're almost 60 years serving the community with just so many good things, workshops, gorgeous gallery support to different artists, the Art Path program, and they are struggling a bit now. So supporting them by supporting your local artists through them is please do that. And then locally, I also have my work at Catalyst Gallery in Old Town. You'll find some of my prints there as well.
Nice.
It's kind of end of the season for me, and I didn't really do any shows this past summer, and I'm still kind of deciding what I want to do coming 2025. But at the moment, I'm keeping busy with doing somewhat daily journal drawings that I post on patreon.com/Daniel J. Hogan, and then later on Instagram, etc. But they end up on Patreon first, and they're free to read. You don't have to join to read those. But if you want to join, throw in a couple bucks every month. It'd be nice. But if this comes out in time before the holidays, if someone wants a commission, please contact me. I'm open for commissions. Those are always fun to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, so to that end, tell folks where they can find you online.
You can find me at danieljhogan.com. As I said, also at patreon.com/Daniel J. Hogan. That's where I'm currently posting new stuff I'm making. I'm also on Instagram as at Daniel J. Hogan Art. And if you want a whole list of where I am everywhere, go to danieljhogan.com/links. That has all my links for everything.
And social media, Instagram and Facebook, I'm at Steph Joy Hogan, easy to find. And you can purchase my artwork and find upcoming events at stephjoyhogan.com.
And if you want to buy some of my prints that I have available around town, you can go to Nelson Gallery in downtown Lansing and Washington Square. They have some of my limited edition prints. And then also Dear Ollie inside of a novel concept, also in downtown Lansing and Washington Square, I believe has some of my prints still in stock. I should probably check that, but last I saw, they did have a few.
Holidays are a great time to acquaint yourselves with all the great local art we have in town. It's a great way to find unique gifts that, as you've both said so beautifully, just really connect to the community and do a lot to support the artists, but just the community as well. So perfect timing to talk with the two of you for this episode. Well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to agree. I think that giving art is such a special gift, and when you shop locally through local artists, you're going to find all the like really good, weird, personal stuff that is like reminds you exactly of your friend who has a cat with a purple collar, and this, like you find the interesting things for the most interesting people in your life, and you're going to find some treasures for yourself, I'm sure. But like shopping locally for local art, like you just find the best stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
And there's an added meaning to it too. It's not something mass produced, and like giving a piece of original art is always going to have more of a lasting appeal, at least to me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Steph and Dan. I really enjoyed hearing both of your stories.
Thank you. We're so glad to be here.
Yes, thanks for having us.
This podcast has been a production of the Arts Council of Greater Lansing. To learn more about them, go to lansingarts.org.